Hello to all my friends and family here on Facebook. Please bear with me. I'm very tired. I was up all night. I've only had about 2 hours sleep. Personal issues going on in the family. While I was up last night, I watched, dozens and dozens of videos from gun grabbers, I guess is what they're calling them. I just call them stupid. Saying that, more guns equals more violence. But yet, everywhere you look, you have these mass shootings. They're in gun-free zones. So, I was watching Piers Morgan, I think's his name. And he had different people, Ted Nugent, Jesse Ventura, a couple other people. And they all kept making the same comparison. Well, look at how many people are killed by cars every year. Look at how many people are killed by drunk drivers. So, I actually went online, did my own research. And here's what I've come up with, statistically, for 2015. And most of these numbers are provided by CDC, government websites. In the U.S., there are roughly 318 million people. Okay? Out of that 318 million people, there are 357 million guns, which means there is one gun plus for every American citizen. Okay? Out of these numbers, there are roughly 30,000 people a year that die due to guns. Now, here are the things they will not tell you. Yes, 30,000 people, that is a lot. It's a bad situation. There's no other way to put it. No other way to put it. But out of those 30,000 people, 18,000 of them are suicides. 10,000 are homicides. 2,000 are either accidental or law enforcement deaths. Over 60% are suicides, self-inflicted. You can do that running a car over a bridge, overdosing on medicine, cutting yourself, hanging yourself, numerous ways. Not a lot of you know this, a burden I carry with me. It's been probably 6-7 years ago now. I've honestly tried to forget it. The day before Thanksgiving, we were at my son's godmother's house, and neighbors come running over, does anyone know CPR? A young boy, a 10-year-old boy, hung himself. Me and my son's godmother tried our best to do CPR till EMTs got there with no luck. And now that's something that sticks with you. Alright. Now, out of these numbers, like I said, 30,000 people a year. But what I want to focus on are the 10,000 people that are murdered. Out of that 10,000, now listen to these numbers. Chicago, there were 445 deaths due to gun violence. New York, 350. LA, 296. Our own nation's capital has 105 murders a year due to gun violence. Now, these are locations where there are some of the strictest laws for owning a gun. Chicago was number 1 for 2015. for the murder rate. And they have by far the strictest laws, other than California. But it blows my mind how you can look at these numbers and say, okay, here are 4 cities that has some of the strictest laws. Now, between these 4 cities, that's 1,200 people. That is 12% of the people murdered comes out of just 4 cities. 4. And it's locations where they have some of the strictest gun laws. But yet, less guns equals less violence, right? Yeah. There's a town in Georgia. I cannot remember the name of it. I've heard about it numerous times. It is actually an ordinance for the citizens to own a gun. When the city passed that ordinance, you know what happened? The crime rate went down. They have hardly no crime in that town. Now, the town next door to them has a lot of rules and regulations on owning a gun. Their crime rate is very high. Now, these are 2 towns right next to each other. And, you know, some of you know where I live, some of you don't. Some of you get the concept between, you know, right next to each other. So for those who understand the concept, great. Those that don't, that's like saying, okay, I live in Martinsville, and we have a lot of crime. And then my neighbor in town, Collinsville, doesn't. Or more comparisons will be Boone's Mill, Roanoke, South Hill, Lake Cross. There you go. That should cover everybody on it. 2 towns right next to each other, completely different laws. The crime level is extremely different between the 2. It's common sense right there. Washington, D.C. alone, when they banned handguns, their crime rate skyrocketed. Now, I brought all that up to bring all this up. Again, there are 318 million people in the U.S. Out of those 318 million people, there are 253 million cars registered in the U.S., yet only 210 million licensed drivers. Every year, 10,000 people die every year due to drunk driving. Again, these numbers were given, you know, I looked them all up on government websites. The CDC has the majority of it. 1.1 million DUIs are written a year. 1.1 million. Yet we do not ban alcohol. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying ban alcohol. Don't do that. 3,000 teenagers a year die from texting while driving. I might be wrong on this one. I couldn't find anything. Most states have banned texting while driving. I know some states have it where, you know, if it's hands-free, talk and text, you can do that. But some states have banned everything. If you're moving, you cannot be doing it. Point blank, period. Now, here's the number that really got me. Mind you, there are 253 million cars. That is 104 million less guns in the U.S. Okay? Yet, the number of deaths each year by motor vehicle, whether it be DUI or just plain out accident, 32,675. There are more deaths per year due to cars than there are guns. Yet we have 104 million guns more than what we do cars. Okay? Years ago, I had some issues growing up. So being I had kids in my home, I didn't want a gun in my house. And a lot of you have heard me tell this story. Till I woke up to go to work at 3:30 one morning and somebody kicked in my back door. Now, don't get me wrong. I've got a wife and 2 kids. I'd have done what I had to do. But it's a lot harder to do what you got to do, not knowing how far the other person is willing to go. First thing I did, went and got a gun. And since then, I fell in love with them all over again. Yeah, we go out, we shoot 22s. Even my kids shoot. Both my boys have a 22. Matter of fact, one of them's got 2 22s. He's got a 20 gauge shotgun and he's got a 243. Then my wife's got a shotgun. She's got a 12 gauge pump. And the other day, my wife's at home with my son. He's sick. So they're going to go to school, pick up my older son, and schoolwork. As they go outside, there's a gentleman walking back and forth in front of our house between our 2 driveways. When my wife goes to back out to leave, she can't. The gentleman is at the road, standing in the middle of our driveway. So she goes around the house. Well, as she does this, she calls 911 because it seems very suspicious to her that just, gentleman's just doing this. Well, as she comes around the house, the guy's gone. Nowhere in sight. So she cuts back into the driveway. And that's when my son says, "Mama, he's in the backyard, under the trampoline." So my wife rushes my son inside. Police have been called. They're on the way. What does my wife do? Let me tell you, this is what my wife did. She went and got her pink and purple shotgun. And when she stepped outside, she looked at the guy and said, "It's time for you to go." My wife stands 5'4", and this gentleman was taller than me and bigger than me. He could have easily muscled her to the ground. But when he heard that slide rack back and forth, you know what he did? Without any questions or argument, he got up and he walked his happy butt back up the road where he needed to be. Police come, they question the guy. Come back down here, talk to us, said, "Look, we've had some run-ins with this guy. He is crazy. Watch yourself. Be careful. You got any more issues, call us back." He also continued to tell us how he got a very good laugh that my wife chased him off with a pink and purple shotgun. Because my wife still had the shotgun with her when the police pulled up. She saw them getting ready to turn in. She took the shotgun, she set it on the ground, stepped back from it, put her hands up. Yes, guns can be dangerous. They can. But they can also help. If my wife had not had this gun the other day, the balance of power would have been greatly one-sided. This is the only thing that stood between the guy outside and my son inside. Because my wife could not have overpowered him at all. Now, people say, "Oh, well, we don't want to take your guns," but you don't need these high-capacity magazines. Well, to all you people that say you don't need a high-capacity magazine, let me tell you this. When your adrenaline starts pumping, depending on where that shot was placed, you might not even feel it. Take Ronald Reagan. He was shot and did not even realize it until he had left the scene. Prime example right there. Another tragedy due to gun violence. Situation at Smith Mountain Lake this summer. You know, I watched that video and think, wow, me and my wife were just there. That's where we go for her birthday every year. You know, short drive up the road for us. The young woman that was killed was local, from my area. The gunman was point blank. How many times the young woman was struck, I don't know. Whether it was 1 time or 10 times, it's tragic either way. I give it that. But you're not going to stop somebody from carrying out the task they want to do. It's that simple. Whether you've got a gun or a hammer, it's going to happen. To be honest, I've seen more fights where it was a hammer used than a gun. Yes, I'm smoking in my house. Nobody's home right now, and I don't feel like stepping outside because my sinuses are kicking my butt. But you can shoot somebody when their adrenaline's pumping. They might not even realize it. Or better yet, get someone that's hopped up on drugs. Let me know how 7 shots work. Because I guarantee you, if they're on something, you better put them 7 shots where they need to be, or else they're going to keep coming. I do not look at any of the guns we own and enjoy the thought that if the day ever comes I have to use this for self-defense, that I have to do that. I don't like the thought of me hurting another human. But I will say this. If it comes down to my family or someone else, I'm going to protect my family. I can live with the consequences later, but I can live, and so can they. You know, it's been so many things over the last couple of years that's irritated me. It's unreal. You know, I understand there's a lot of angry people in this country right now. I get it. I've been there. I'm still going through some of it, just like you guys. Don't sit here and think, oh, he's... Cause I'm going to say this because some people who might see this video are going to say it. Oh, he's white privileged. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. You know, I grew up in low-class income, you know, neighborhoods. You know, if I got something name brand, it was because it was purchased secondhand. You know, if I needed a pair of shoes, sometimes I needed to hear, well, it's going to be a week or two before we can go to Walmart and get you a pair. Walmart. But privileged. Remember that. I left my hometown because I was tired of being harassed by the police. Yes, I committed some crimes when I was a juvenile. I admitted my guilt. I paid my fines. I did my community service. All that good stuff. I paid my dues. But yet constantly, if anything happened, all it took was someone to mention my name, and they were jumping down my throat for stuff I didn't even do. A former employer actually turned me in because I was seen in the neighborhood that night. I was actually helping one of his workers unload a vehicle off of a tow truck in the middle of the night. I was staying at the house across the road. Saw the older gentleman, trying to get the car off, get it in the shop. So I went over and helped him out, trying to be nice. That's all it was. Somebody broke into some cars on that lot that night, and I'm the one that got blamed because I go to try to do something nice for someone I used to work with. Okay. Detectives picked me up the next day. Now, mind you, my dad, very well known where I'm from, former law enforcement himself, family members in law enforcement. I've got respect for you guys. I know what you go through. I've seen the lives you live. Not everyone can do it. But, mind you, this detective knew my dad. When the detective gets so close to me in my face and tells me for something I didn't even do, mind you that, if my dad was alive, he'd beat my ass. And I'm quoting Chuck Mayer's words. I could have told you what that man had for breakfast. That's how up in my face he was. I've never come so close to wanting to smack a man, a member of law enforcement in my life. Never. And I've had some dealings with some crappy cops, believe me. That's when I knew, yeah, I ain't got no life here in South Hill no more. I messed up once and now I'm going to pay for it my whole life? Nah. I'm out of here. I'm over 100 miles away from my home. I see friends and family periodically. 2, maybe 3 times a year, if that. Just saw some I hadn't seen in 9 years a few months back. But get it together, people. All this hatred, bigotry, and racism, it's pointless. It's pointless. Nothing is achieved. Nothing is solved. To this day, my wife's only met him a few times, and it's never been, a long period of time that, she's seen him. It's normally, on my way out of South Hill or on my way in, I'll try to stop by and see him if I can. I grew up with a guy named D'Angelo Hargrove. He was like a brother to me, in all honesty. If anybody was to ask me who was my best friend growing up, I'd tell them D'Angelo Hargrove, straight up. If anybody was to ask me now, I would still tell them D'Angelo Hargrove. Now, Nadie, if you seeing this, don't get mad. But he's darker than my t-shirt, and I'm wearing a black shirt. It's stupid, people. Racism is stupid. Something happened to you, and it was by a white man, or a white woman, or a black man, or a black woman. Stuff happens, I get that. But you can't blame an entire race for something that happened. And we definitely can't blame our life for something that happened 150 years ago. So everybody just get off that kick. It was 150 years ago. Now I'm going to say this. I have family fighting on both sides. Both Confederacy and Union. So to me, it's a lot of heritage there. And no, the Confederate flag does not mean you're racist. It really doesn't. Throughout my family's history, it's been a lot of family in the military. And it's been traced, on back. I've had family in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, Vietnam, World War II. I got a buddy getting ready to get shipped overseas with all this shit with ISIS going on. I mean, military and law enforcement run deep in my family. I got a lot of respect for all you guys. But it's time to wake up, people. It really is. Yes, police officers can be hard to deal with at times. They're on edge. They've got a very hard job to do. Because they've got a very fine line they've got to walk. That line is the only thing that separates them from being a criminal. And when you're out there every day and you're catching drug dealers and pedophiles and rapists and murderers and all this, it eats away at you. It gets to you. So mind you guys, it ain't always about a speeding ticket or my music was too loud. That's not all they experience. If you run from the police, chances are it's not going to end pretty. Simple as that. Yes, we've got our rights. We do. And all these idiots that want to run around and parade and, carrying AR-15s and open carry and all this, you're bringing unwanted attention. Yes, you have the right to do that, but why is it necessary? If you want to open carry, you can open carry a pistol on your side just as easy. I do it all the time. I do not have a concealed weapons permit. But I carry my pistol on my side a lot of times when I'm out and about. Life is what you make it, people. Yes, some of us are dealt shittier hands than others from the get-go. I'll admit that. I moved up here to where I'm at. I dropped out of high school my senior year when my dad passed away. My life went downhill from there. Quick. Moved 2.5 hours away, over 100 miles away. But you know what? I got my shit together. I got my GED before my class ever even graduated. I've graduated college twice, cum laude and magna cum laude. It's something I'm very proud of. Because you can ask anybody in my family. Out of me and my siblings, I was the one deemed to fail. And I think I've managed to do pretty good for myself. I've got a wife and 2 great kids. I couldn't ask for nothing no better. I've got a great job that I love. And I've quit jobs financially that were better than where I'm at, believe me. The job I'm at now, I gave up 2 weeks paid vacation, 10 paid holidays a year, took a $4 an hour pay cut. Now, I was making right at $20 an hour. $4 an hour pay cut is pretty steep. Insurance, the whole nine. I was a member of the union. I was one of the shop stewards. Gave it all up for $16 an hour and no benefits. I enjoy the environment a lot better. It's a lot less stressful. My boss is a lot more understanding. Like days like today, like I say, I had a lot of family issues. My sinuses are kicking my butt. I'm off work today. He's cool with it. You're not going to find it everywhere you go. But mind you though, people, just because you know someone that owns something like this, preferably not pink and purple, doesn't mean they're a bad person. Doesn't mean they're there to hurt anybody. But it is our right to protect ourselves. When the Second Amendment was wrote, all we had back then was muskets. Your average Joe, farmer, frontiersman, however you want to label them, had the exact same weapons our military did. Because they were our military. They were our militia, our Minutemen. So why are we as civilians today not allowed to have the same weaponry as the military. The Second Amendment was not put in place for people to hunt. Back then, if you didn't hunt, you didn't eat. It was that simple. So hunting back then was not something to do as a hobby. It was a way of life, point blank, period. The Second Amendment was put in place to overthrow a tyrannical government. We had already done it once. Our forefathers knew it was bound to happen again, which is why they put that in there. And it clearly says these rights shall not be infringed upon. It doesn't say anything about hunting. Now, I want to say it's Thomas Jefferson that said, the blood of both patriots and tyrants must be shed. Now, that statement alone says a lot. Now, I'm not saying these people out here going after guns are not passionate about how they feel. That's not saying that they don't believe in what they're trying to do. They very well could be. You know, it might not be just to disarm the citizens. It might be because, well, if we can save one life. Yeah, you might be able to save that one life because this guy couldn't get a gun. But how many lives are you going to put in danger because all of these people couldn't? You know, I read reports and studies all the time, especially young women who are assaulted or raped on places like college campus because they're gun-free zones and they're not allowed to carry their firearms, even though they're licensed to conceal carry. They can't have it on school grounds, so they don't bring it. And that's where the incident occurs. The place they're not allowed to defend themselves. It's stupid, people. Open your eyes, wake up. You know, it's not a perfect world we live in by far. It's never gonna be. You're always gonna have personal agendas, personal opinions getting in the way. It's that simple. Just because it's not perfect doesn't mean we can't make it better. And it's not gonna happen overnight. It's not gonna happen with someone snapping their fingers. It sure as hell isn't going to happen by anyone trying to take guns away. All that's going to do is cause another war. Just open your eyes. Think about what you're really mad at and ask yourself, is it even really worth being mad? Anyways, that's enough rant for me. It's lunchtime. Y'all be good.